Chelsea have yet again had another extremely busy window thus far under Todd Boehly, and Chelsea yet again have made some head-scratching signings and head-scratching decisions. From having officially brought in 7 players to a squad right now that is officially registered as having 41 players, to having 6 players on their books that are first-team goalkeepers. I mean, it's just a mess right now at Chelsea with the amount of players that they have. In aims to balance the books, Chelsea looks set to part ways with Conor Gallagher for 34 or 33 million pounds to Atletico Madrid. A transfer that is just weird in every way that you look at it. It seems like a transfer Gallagher doesn't want at all. It seems like a transfer Chelsea are forced, and it seems like a transfer that Atletico are rightfully very happy about. I mean, it's just extremely weird to me. I mean, Chelsea and Atletico are very happy over the transfer, and it seems like Gallagher is reluctantly moving to Atleti. I mean, it's just a weird transfer. Really, really weird. But what has happened with Conor Gallagher and his boyhood club Chelsea? Is Gallagher to Atletico even a good fit for Atletico? And overall, what is this mess with Conor Gallagher? I mean, what is it? Well, that's what we'll be talking about today. So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Back of the Net here. I hope you're all doing well. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into it. The first domino I would say in this whole Gallagher situation was when Chelsea decided to splash 35.4 million euros on 25-year-old Englishman from Leicester City in Shrewsbury Hall. Now, when I say I was taken aback by this transfer, boy oh boy was I surprised when this happened or when the rumors even started. On top of having the likes of Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, recently signed Renato Vega, Conor Gallagher, and Nkunku who can play in the 10, Cole Palmer who can play in the 10. They are adding yet another midfielder into the mix in Shrewsbury Hall. This is no slight to Shrewsbury Hall, by the way. He was an amazing player in the Championship last year for Leicester City. Under Maresca, he played in a total of 44 games in the league, and he got himself 12 goals and 14 assists from midfield, both of which were career high numbers for him. He had a career season with Leicester City under Enzo Maresca. So in theory, it would make sense that Shrewsbury Hall moves to Chelsea under the same manager he just had a career season with, in aims to repeat that season. The transfer made sense to me in a way that Shrewsbury Hall knows Maresca's system inside and out. He had a superb championship season last season with Leicester City, but at first glance, to me this may sound crazy, but at first glance, looking at both of their games, Shrewsbury Hall isn't significantly different as a profile compared to Conor Gallagher. Now, they're not perfect matches by any means, but they aren't hugely dissimilar either. Outside of being around the same age and English, Shrewsbury Hall may be statistically better last season than Cole Palmer was, but this year in the Premier League with Chelsea, it won't be hard to imagine that Shrewsbury Hall, all of his statistics would be dropping to about what Conor Gallagher had last season. Statistically, Shrewsbury Hall is significantly better than Gallagher in progressive carries, progressive passes received, but all of which will be likely to drop in Chelsea in the Premier League, and could probably end up looking the same statistically as the season Conor Gallagher just had with Chelsea. So although they aren't the exact same profile or kind of player, in my eyes at least, they aren't worlds apart, and Gallagher is a better midfielder on the defensive end, while Shrewsbury Hall is arguably better in the final third and on the ball. You could see them playing together, but you could also see them being the reason why one of them may be on the bench, because they're not too hugely dissimilar as players. But another huge domino came from Conor Gallagher's side. Gallagher, who has been with Chelsea since the age of 8 years old, has 1 year left on his deal at his boyhood club. He recently turned down a 3-year deal from Chelsea, not because he wants to leave the club at all, but simply because he thought it was unfair that all the other players getting brought into the club had these long 7-year contracts, while someone who's captained the team for some games last year, someone who's been an ever-present player for Chelsea, playing 35 games the season before last, and last season missing just 1 game, a player who has been at the club since 8 years old, can't get anything longer than a 3-year deal. So he rejected the offer in hopes that, Chelsea would regroup, they'd come back to him with a longer term offer, even by 1 or 2 more years. But since that moment, Chelsea have been looking to sell the 24-year-old, with Maresca reportedly telling him that he won't fit in Chelsea's new possession style of football, and Chelsea have already accepted a hefty £57 million offer from Aston Villa for Gallagher, just for Conor to immediately reject that move, saying he wants to stay, but he simply just wants a new, longer-term deal. So with all of that said, Gallagher, who's been an ever-present player for you, he's been your captain for some games, he's been a fan favourite for the most part, he's been with you since 8 years old. What do Chelsea do in this situation? Well, instead of offering your player your academy product, an ever-present player, a contract that is maybe 1 or 2 years longer than the original offer, no, push him out of the club and essentially force him to leave. A disgusting way to treat a player that has done nothing wrong other than ask for a longer term deal at the club. And this happens right after doing the exact same thing to yet another academy graduate in Trevoh Chalobah. The 25-year-old was left out of the preseason squad that toured America and was left to train alone in London. Chalobah, like Gallagher, was a very solid player, especially after Chalobah's return from injury last season. He was one of Mauricio Pochettino's best defenders. And I get, okay fine, Maresca prefers Fofana, Disasi and Tosin, but this is no way to treat an academy product in Trevoh Chalobah, who has played as long as he has for Chelsea, and the same goes for Conor Gallagher. Wanting to sell a player is one thing, but to come in the way Maresca has and treat the beloved academy product the way he has, in my eyes, is nothing but distasteful, but it's also not a way to easily win over a dressing room. Regardless, last night Fabrizio Romano reported that Conor Gallagher, after long deliberation, has finally given the green light to join Atletico Madrid this summer. Chelsea accepted a £33 million offer from Atleti about 2 weeks ago, but Gallagher does not want to leave Chelsea and has been doing everything he can to stay at Chelsea, despite Simeone and Atletico basically foaming at the mouth for Gallagher. But after being banished from the first team for wanting to stay longer at the club, he has now decided to finally join Atletico Madrid. Now, Chelsea stuff aside, because I'm sure we can all agree that that is so distasteful for Maresca and Chelsea to treat him the way they have. Now, I quite like the fit of Gallagher joining Atletico Madrid. First of all, there is obviously less players in the Atletico Madrid squad than there is in the Chelsea squad, and despite Atleti having the likes of Rodrigo de Paul, Marcus Llorente, Arthur Vermeeren, Pablo Barrios, both of which are very good talents, and having the likes of Koke in the team, the midfield in my eyes has a perfect hole to fill with someone like Conor Gallagher. Gallagher is a very well-rounded midfielder. He's an all-action midfielder, good at playing as a ball winner in the middle of the park, but he can also play as a 10 if absolutely needed. He's quite aggressive when he needs to be, and outside of aerial duels, Conor Gallagher is quite a well-rounded player with not too many holes in his game. He brings yet more versatility to this midfield. He can play as a box-to-box midfielder, which is something that, looking at the Atleti team, maybe Atleti lack in that department. Koke is more of a deeper playmaker. Rodrigo de Paul can play as a box-to-box player for sure, but he's maybe more of an advanced playmaker. Vermeeren is more of a standard defensive midfielder that may at times still struggle on the scoring front, and he isn't amazing on the ball, but is pretty good defensively. Marcus Llorente, I'm sure we all know, is just your versatile workhorse with an outstanding work rate, being able to play almost everywhere in the midfield and even being able to play as a fullback. Pablo Barrios is a very talented central midfielder that, like Gallagher, is quite well-rounded, but I wouldn't say Barrios is a workhorse. He's not really suited as a box-to-box player, at least not yet in my eyes. We all know Simeone loves his high-intensity players that are capable of just running flat out game in and game out. And say what you want about Gallagher, but he is an extremely hard worker that is more than willing to put in the hard yards game in and game out, which is perfect for Simeone and his intensity of play. Simeone usually plays with a 3-5-2, kind of any variation of the 3-5-2, more so though with a flat 3-5-2, having three central midfielders, with usually a midfield of Vermeeren, De Paul and Koke, seeing Barrios come in for De Paul off the bench, and Llorente starts as your wingback / midfielder. Gallagher, you would imagine, would be a starter alongside Koke and De Paul in this three-man midfield, three-man flat midfield, and Gallagher is the perfect pairing with his workhorse attitude, being good enough on the ball to play in a very technical league that is La Liga, but also being physically strong enough to dominate the midfield in La Liga. I'm not saying Gallagher is going to become the best player in La Liga. I'm not saying Gallagher is going to come into this Atleti team and make them win the La Liga, but I love the fit in this Atleti team, and considering he has been kicked out of his boyhood club very distastefully, and Gallagher understandably not been overly excited to leave Chelsea, there are far worse fits, there are far worse environments to leave other than Gallagher joining Atletico Madrid. On the field, Conor will be a good fit in Simeone's system. Conor will now leave England to a place where the press maybe could be a little bit lighter on him than they are in England, and he'll be playing under one of the most high-intensity systems and managers that, in my eyes, suits Conor Gallagher's game perfectly. I'm excited to see how Gallagher shakes out in Madrid, and for a fee of £33 million, Atleti, I think, got a very good price for Gallagher, considering that Villa were willing to pay £57 million just a month ago. To get him now for £33 million, I think is a very good price tag, and I hope Conor proves Enzo Maresca and Chelsea wrong for the way that they treated him.